Welcome back to Poppy Monroe. I know many of you have been sewing up Headbands for Heroes, and I thank you all for getting in there and sewing up as many as you're able to do. I've been receiving lots of messages and photos of our heroes on the front lines who are wearing the headbands, and behind their masks you can see their eyes smiling, and I know that they're appreciating being thought of. I know that many of us are starting to feel useful and hopeful with something to do from our homes. So this is the demo of what you've just sewn. Today I'm going to show you how to sew on the buttons. I know I did a hand tutorial in the first video. I used a shank button in that video because it was the closest one to hand, and I was trying to get it out the door pretty quickly. But actually, I think these flat buttons are probably better to use because if a healthcare professional was hit, with the button on, it would hurt less if it were flat as opposed to something with a shank behind it. So I am going to use my sewing machine with a regular zigzag foot. This is my regular zigzag foot, and I'm going to use it to sew on my buttons, which I know many of you are like, what? Tell me more, because I normally do the hand version and it's taking me hours and hours to do it. So here's the headband. I sew my buttons on with the headband flat before I close the ends. I've gone ahead and indicated just with a pen where I want my button to go. Now I'm going to show you there's buttons with 2 holes and buttons with 4 holes. Both can be used and both can be installed using your zigzag foot. The 2-hole button is faster. So I put my fabric down and then I put my button on top. Now I select my zigzag stitch, okay, which happens to be number 5 for me. For me, I have feed dogs that can be lowered, and so I just switched it so that the feed dogs are lowered. Those are the things that pull the fabric through the machine and help to feed it through. Now, if you drop those, they won't move because if you were not to do that, then as soon as you started sewing, it would move your button underneath the foot and you break your needle. You don't want that. So I've lowered my feed dogs. Now, not everybody can do that. So if that's the case for you, what I would do is lower your stitch length to as low as it can go. That will make sure that the button probably won't even move for you. So now that my feed dogs are lowered, I just eyeball the button. Now my zigzag foot has a line in the middle, and so I'm eyeballing that line to be in between the 2 holes. So now that I have my button underneath my foot, I'm going to adjust my stitch width so that the zigzag mimics the size of the holes. Now this is going to take a little bit of guesswork here, and there's no real science behind it. What I do is I manually crank my needle down into my button, and then when I come back, before I come back up, I'll select my width, which I think this is about a 4. And so when it comes back over, I'm still manually cranking towards me, and you'll see that my needle sinks right down into the hole, which is exactly what I need to do. So now that I know that it's at the perfect width, what I can do, and I'm just going to up the tension a little bit here, what I can do is hit the presser foot, and it's going to go back and forth, back and forth. And you do that a few times. Now what you can do if you're really, really fussy is leave your tails extra long and then use a needle to bury this back down and tie behind. I just pull mine out and I snip. But that said, it's up to you and your preference. Now I'll show you how to do it with a button with 4 holes. It's the exact same process, you just have to repeat it twice. So again, I'll put my headband in, put my button on top, slide my button underneath my foot, and now the button holes on this one is slightly smaller. So I'm going to have to decrease my stitch length or stitch width, I think, to about a 3.5. So I'm going to continue to manually hand crank the wheel towards me, and that's just the right fit. Now, if I had cranked towards me and it had got stuck on the button, I would just go back and readjust the stitch width again until I got the right fit. Now I know I have the right fit, so I sew. I'll remove and trim the threads. Now I'll go back in again and repeat the same process with the other 2 holes. You'll get pretty good at eyeballing where the buttonholes should be. And trim the threads. So here you are, a button installed. If I weren't chatting, like, I would probably be able to do both of these buttons in less than a minute. Then I would just close up the back of the headband, and then there you have it. I hope this is really helpful for you in sewing your headbands. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel for more updates to come.